power to test by a by-election that was deliberately created by them, by ensuring that the justice system is twisted to ensure that the candidate, the MP who's sitting in Kawamba constituency, remains confined in custody, and deliberately an election is called, even when we know that the gentleman has appealed his decision. The diplomatic corps must follow what is going on in Kawamba, not only from a perspective of elections, but also from a perspective of justice, because we have raised considerable issues about the character of the magistrate who heard the case for Honorable Chitotela and Honorable Nixon Chirango, and what followed after. These individuals up now are incarcerated because it has been decided deliberately not to admit them to bail as expected of by the Constitution. The issue of bail is an issue that the Patriotic Front is taking very seriously, because suddenly we have now got a rule that suggests that anybody who is Patriotic Front, and by extension anybody who patronizes the Patriotic Front, once you fall foul of the law, and if you are convicted at the subordinate court level, you don't even have the right to be admitted to bail pending appeal, because it appears a condemnation is perpetual. Under the law, if I'm convicted by a court that is lower, like the subordinate court, and I appeal, I must be availed everything that is contemplated by Article 18 of the Constitution, including, most importantly, to be admitted to bail pending appeal, because I should be available to instruct my lawyers when they're pursuing my appeal. I should be able to enjoy the liberties that are contained in the Constitution, since I have appealed the matter about which I've been convicted. Surprisingly, it appears that it is now a norm, or it's a new normal, that if you are if you belong to the Patriotic Front, and unfortunately you fail foul of the law, and those that have got the responsibility of administering justice in your case will find it prudent to keep you confined even when you are pursuing an appeal. It's a very unfortunate turn of events, but it does have multiplier effects, including the effect of asking the people of Kawamba, who had elected an MP who was sitting in Parliament, to go back to an election so soon after that election, because now it appears those who are in power would like to continue diminishing the numbers of members of Parliament in the opposition in Parliament, so that whatever agenda they've got for the future of the nation can pass without contestation. But we are confident that the people of Kawamba have seen through the maze. They have seen through this mirage, and they have resolved that if they are going to vote for anybody in Kawamba, if a fair and free election is guaranteed, they will make sure that they replace somebody who will speak on their behalf in the same way that the member of Parliament who is now confined and who is on appeal used to represent them in Parliament. We are hopeful that we're going to have a free and fair election in Kawamba, not only in Kawamba, but any other election that are going to come because of what the UPND has been doing. Chair, I'm also supposed to be speaking about this issue that has caused so much consternation in the nation. The issue is about the proposed amendment of Section 70. I have dated the press so many times. I have appeared on media platforms so many times, trying to call upon Zambians to look carefully at what is being proposed by the UPND government to amend Section 70 of the Penal Code. I am gratified that a lot of Zambians have taken this issue with the seriousness that it deserves, and they have wholesomely condemned this maneuver by the UPND government to amend the Penal Code to give themselves extensive powers on how they are going to be dealing with people insofar as ethnic and tribal relationships are going to be concerned. It is not, mystical for you to understand that from the time the UPND got into power, they've armed themselves with the provisions of the law to deal with those who don't agree with them. And Section 70 is one such section that they've been using before. But couched in its current form, this provision, which accords with international basic standards, has been very effective in terms of regulating, hate speech in the country, even when the UPND has been abusing it. Their design now is to expand the definitional concept of this provision to ensure that if they do not agree with what Honorable Mundubire says about them, if they do not agree with what Honorable George Sanga says about them, they will invoke the provision of Section 70 as amended and have that person not only confined to custody when being tried, but if, and unfortunately, you get convicted, you will go to a long jail term of between 7 years and 20 years. It gives me deep concern that you have a government in power which was voted for by popular vote, and they've degenerated so quickly into suggesting that they can bring into this country draconian laws that not only violate the right of free expression, the right of assembly, the right of speech in the Constitution, by putting in a provision that is so dangerous and that is so negative to democracy as the proposed Section 70. I just want to quote for you what the bishops said when they were commenting about this section. I won't quote everything that they said, but I quote some of the most important observations that they made, just to send a message to the public and even to the Republican president. Because I have maintained that there is nobody in this country who has called for the amendment of Section 70 apart from the president himself. The Law Development Commission has not gone around to collect views from the Zambians on whether it is desirable to amend this section. The only thing Zambians know about Section 70 and the proposed amendment is what the president said when he had a press briefing, where he lamented the growth of hate speech in the country. And in my engagement with the press, I have agreed that the president was right to observe that there's a growing tendency of hate speech in the country. I agree with him, and so many Zambians agree with him. What I don't agree with the president, and what so many Zambians don't agree with the president, is that his lone voice must result in us amending the law and introducing such harsh sentences as a 20-year jail term for hate speech. I do not agree with that, Mr. President. It is not desirable. It is actually going to negatively impact upon our tribal and ethnic relationships in the nation, because, mind you, those who are wielding power currently might want to abuse this law to put other people from the spectrum where we could easily discuss with each other matters concerning the development of this nation, matters concerning governance of this nation. You don't use a law to regulate speech that is supposed to be guaranteed, under the Constitution in a manner that is being suggested by the proposed amendment to Section 70. This is what the bishops said in their pastoral letter, and I quote, "As history has shown, this provision has enabled the incumbent DPP to make partisan calls that have previously benefited the government by way of only sanctioning the prosecution of opposition figures while declining to sanction the private prosecution of government officials or those associated with the ruling party on similar charges of hate speech. We therefore reject the proposed amendments to Section 70 in their entirety because they are too vague, they are too broad, they are open to abuse, they have the potential to and undermine the freedom of expression as guaranteed by Article 20 in our Constitution, and clearly designed to target critics of What we are being called upon as a nation is to begin to interrogate if indeed there's a growing trend of